All right, we're here with Brandon Shaw. Great start, Niagara Ice Dogs, OHL assistant coach. Welcome to our VHG education series. We do these for the players, just so they get a better understanding of what it's like to coach, what coaches are looking for, and so on and so forth. Brandon, really appreciate having you on here today. And let's start off right off the hop. You and I did HP1 coaching course in Halifax. Your coaching career has taken off astronomically. My coaching career has been very stagnant since. Let's talk about the BCHL right off the hop. You went from your HP1 right to the BCHL. Let's talk about your experiences out there.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, first off, thanks for having me. And it's great to, since that date, we've kept in touch. And no, it's been great since then. Yeah, I went from that to the BCHL, and I had 3 stops in the BCHL. So I was in Merritt, BC the first time. It's a small town of about 7,000. Honestly, one of the best places I've ever coached. One of my favorites. It holds a special place in my heart. The people there are unbelievable, and if you want to become a hockey player, there's not many better places to do it. We had ice time from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m., and you could be on as long as you want. And with the coaching staff we had there, you could get as good as you want. So the first year I was there, we did not too bad. We were about a 500 hockey team, and then gained experience in the playoffs with a young group. And then the next year we came back and we tied for first in the league and everything like that. And obviously when you don't win your last game, it's not seen as a success, but very successful in a small market like that. We had 22 players go on to play in college. 17 of them went D1. And Merritt, although a small market in the BCHL, I think is one of the best. Went on from there and went to Alberni. Alberni's on Vancouver Island. And again, it was unbelievable smaller town. It's about 17,000, but they just went to the finals this year. So Joe Martin has built that program from kind of struggling and working to get into playoffs into a team that goes to the finals, is competing against Penticton to win a league championship. And there it's a hockey factory. They have a junior B team, they have a junior A team in the BCHL, and they just produce hockey players that go on to play NCAA Division I, and every single person there comes out with more character than they came in with. It's a great place, and Joe does a great job of building guys up and helping them have success at college. And then Coquitlam was my last stop. I was head coach and assistant GM there. I got the experience to learn from Joe for 4 years, and I learned a lot of great lessons and took them with me to be a head coach. We were a younger team, and we had a lot of success in our first year. We were kind of a rebuilding program, and we ended up sneaking into playoffs in the 7th seed, and we took a 2nd seed team to Game 7, gave them all they can handle, and I think the back half of the season we went 16 2-2 or something like that to get into the playoffs and make some pushes and make a lot of people uncomfortable. But the BCHL it's one of the best leagues in junior hockey. It's super fast. It's a different style game than a lot of other junior leagues, but it allows players to get used to the college game before they get there. You see Quinnipiac, they win the national title this year, and they have a ton of BCHL products on that roster, including a few guys that I was fortunate to coach. And it's a lot of it to do with the style of play out in BC. You're playing a north-south game. A lot of it's built off transition. A lot of goals come on special teams, but it gets you ready for that college game. It gets you ready for the grind. There's junior leagues that maybe they don't practice every single day, or it's not run like a program like BC. So I have all the respect in the world for the coaches, the players, and everybody that goes through that route through BC to get to college.
Now, do you think that this route is going to change now for the casual viewer of this? The BCHL decides to go rogue this year. They're a renegade and not involved with Hockey Canada, which, some people, kind of turn their eyebrow up to this. Do you think that this is going to benefit the BCHL or hinder it? Like, where do you think it's going to go from here?
I think it's going to be beneficial. Really, it's been talked about for a long time. It was talked about when I was still out in BC, and it's going to come down to the coaches and GMs. It's how they recruit, right? You get a little bit more freedom. You can recruit kids that are underage from other provinces. So you might be able to take guys that are looking USHL, or you might be able to take guys that are looking different avenues, and you just lengthen your runway by going the college route. And BC is a premier league. So I think with the group of coaches they have right now and the group of coaches they'll get in the future within that league, I think they're going to have nothing but success. And I know the BCHL as an organization and the league, they have a plan to make each and every organization better. So you're going to get better coaching. You're going to get more coaches, which helps with your development. You're going to get better training staffs. You're going to get better equipment staffs. And the BCHL has a plan. They always have. They're a very well run league and they're very professional and it's a well-oiled machine. So I think you're going to see a lot of success from that league. And whether it takes 5 years to take off, 2 years, 10 years, I think you're going to see that league become a premier league for development and for players.
Okay, that's a really interesting viewpoint and take on it. I'm sure there's some people out there saying, geez, Hockey Canada decided to go against Hockey Canada. That's a really bold statement, but I can definitely see where you're coming from there too. And shifting back to the CHL now because you are back in the CHL, you're back in the Ontario Hockey League with Niagara. How did this all go down? You were out in Coquitlam and everything seemed to be going real well there. And was this something where they called you, or I don't exactly know all the details? Can we kind of dip into what exactly happened there to transition from going out west to back to the old Canadian Shield?
Yeah. I coached with Dan Fitzgerald in Junior B while I was in university at McMaster in Hamilton. And we coached Cambridge in the GOJHL, which is another great breeding ground for players for guys that age out of that league. They can go Division 3, some go Division 1, or a lot of them use it as a springboard to get down south or out west. So I was coaching with him there back when I was about 20 years old, and then I spent my time out in BC and kind of worked on getting better as a coach. And it turned out he was going to be the head coach in Niagara, and they called me up and asked if I'd have interest, and I definitely had interest. It would bring me back closer to home. My family's in Barrie, Ontario, and Collingwood in that area, so brought me back closer to home. Mom was happy about that one, as everyone, I'm sure, their mom would like them close. So it was just a different experience. I've never coached that close to home before. My family got out to a lot of games and stuff like that, so they approached me, and I had a ton of interest. And at the time, it made sense.
You are a person that you have been all over the place. I mean, you were in PEI 1 minute, and you will talk about process hockey now in a few minutes. You've been out to BC. Coaching has really taken you all over North America, which is super cool. It's an opportunity for somebody like yourself and some other prospective person who's watching this to say, you know what, I can make a career and I can see the world coaching. I think it's a great avenue. And you guys didn't make the playoffs this year. Only two teams don't make it in the OHL, but that means that you are going to get a bounty of draft picks. And you guys got the second overall pick this year in the OHL draft and the fifth overall pick. So this is kind of a potentially a franchise changing draft for you guys. Let's talk about the two picks that you guys made at 2 and 5.
Yeah, we got Ryan Rubrick at 2. He's a polarizing talent. Like he has an NHL shot right now. He can score. His IQ on the offensive side of the games is really, really special. He thinks the game at a higher level than most, and being around him just a little bit from development camp and getting to know him over the summer, like he has a high level IQ and he makes people around him better. So I expect him. It's really hard to make an impact at 16 in the OHL, but any major junior league for that matter. And for him, he has the capability of doing it. With that shot, I'm sure he's going to be a threat on the power play. If he has the puck in the offensive zone, he's going to be a threat. He's a guy that you don't want to leave open. One of the things he does so well is he finds open ice and white ice, and he'll be able to find those holes. And if you give him a second, that thing could be in and out of the net before the goalie even realizes it. So he could be an offensive catalyst for us, and I think you'll see you'll see his name. He's underage player, so his draft year is not until his third year in the OHL. So if he continues to hone his game and work on it, and we develop at the pace that we believe that Ryan will, you'll see him take off, and I believe you'll see his name in the NHL someday. And then we have Ethan Zada at 5. I think Ethan could be the surprise of the OHL draft, if not the first round, the entire draft. He's a 200-foot hockey player. He's got high IQ. He has the ability to score. He's really fast. He has the ability to skate in all directions. His ability to take guys on one-on-one is really, really good. Even though his coaches might give us a heart attack every now and then, he can take guys on one-on-one and beat them, and he can make players around him better. He sees the ice really, really well. So he complements a lot of different types of players. And again, it's really hard to be impactful at 16 years old. So if he comes in and he has a great 16-year-old year, I wouldn't be surprised. If he comes in and he has an average 16-year-old year, I wouldn't be surprised. But when the time comes and we're ready to win, I think you'll see his name, and he'll be a big impactful player during that time. And if he progresses like he should, and like I believe he will, it'll be the same thing. You'll see his name in higher leagues, and he'll continue to grow to become a really good hockey player.
And speaking from the Quebec League side, Brendan, I'm very familiar with like the CSR, where I work for CSR, and we see the numbers and the statistics that come back at us at the end of a draft. And only 18 guys were 16 years old playing in the queue last year. So the point that you're making there is very hard to make an impact. It's hard to just play in the league as a 16, let alone make an impact, because you're dealing with some of the best 18, 19-year-old players on planet Earth. So it is definitely a tough league to make an impact on in your first season, being 16 and still technically being under 18 or midget age. I'll always still call it midget, but being under 18 age. Which brings me to talking about development of players. You spend a lot of time developing players in the summer. You own a company called Process Hockey. I will put the links of all of Shazi's social media down in this video, so you guys can give him a follow and give his program a follow. Are you running this out of PEI this year or Ontario, or what's the deal for Process Hockey this summer? What do you guys have on the go?
Yeah, so Process Hockey kind of it travels with me. Kind of do it everywhere that I am. So we're looking to make an impact here in Ontario now, based out of St. Catharines. So we're doing some ice times there. There's still a presence in PEI. So the goalies work with Nelson McCauley. Nelson's one of the best guys, I believe, in the Maritimes, and honestly in North America. He does a great job. Like, he works with guys. I'm sure you know the name Chad Arsenault. I think Chad's, I don't know what he's listed at, but he's not very tall. And for him to play for a bit in the Quebec Major Junior League is a hell of a feat. And I'm super impressed by Chad because of his work ethic, but Nelson deserves a ton of credit on that too. For a guy to play at 5'7" or 5'8" as a goaltender in a really good league, like, you got to be able to hold your feet and you got to be patient, and that's really tough to do. So he's running a lot of goalie stuff in PEI. He's a great guy to work with. There's a couple guys in PEI that'll run ice times that we're affiliated with. And then again, it travels with me. So like when I was in BC, we do ice times out there. It'll travel to Ontario. It's kind of just all over, and we're here for players. We have a little bit of an online presence too. So we work with guys online, one-on-one, just breaking down video and talking about trends and habits in their game to try and create more consistent basis. So guys understand that they are required to do certain habits each and every game to bring them success. And it's sometimes hard to pick out in your own game. And if you have a critical lens on it, it can just help players more and more. So we do that throughout the year as well.
I think that's a great way to go now. And especially with technology advancing the way it is, you have Instat now where you can literally, it clips it out for you. It's much better than when you and I started in this industry, where like you to watch a game. I mean, you're watching a regular Nintendo player cruising around and it was like so blurry you could barely see it. And now it's like crystal clear, 1080p HD, and you can really break down the player shifts and cut out some things and some mistakes that they make. It's already done for you. We are definitely spoiled in the scouting industry and in the coaching industry from maybe 20 years ago or so. Brennan, biggest differences between the OHL and the BCHL. Let's dive into that. And then one more question. After that, we'll talk about the Peterborough Petes in the Memorial Cup.
Sounds good. Yeah, no. Biggest difference is just it's a different path, right? Like when you're in junior A and you're pushing for an NCAA scholarship, you have a runway and it's 4 to 5 years. Maybe it's a little bit less, but you have time and you got a lot of time on the clock. And once you get your NCAA scholarship, you have another 4 or 5 years in college. So I find guys aren't as in a rush to be like, I need to get here, I need to get there. Where major junior, like guys want to get drafted. They signed in major junior to get drafted. They want to be one of the best in the world, and they have 2 to 3 years to get drafted. I think there's a misconception for players, and they don't realize how much time they have in major junior. Like you look at a lot of different guys, like just a guy out of PEI, Bennett McCarthy, like he got a NHL contract at 20. So his runway is still 4 or 5 years, and he has to figure it out. But he was one of the guys that did. I find major junior sometimes guys can be in a rush, and there's no need to be in a rush. Everybody develops at their own pace. It just takes time. It takes time, and it takes effort. It takes all the things that we talk about as coaches. And if you're a high character individual that puts the time in and is willing to work at little details of their game, whether that being a gritty player that's great on the forecheck that brings energy, like everybody's looking for that. And if you do that at a super high level, like there's guys in the OHL that are drafted and signed that do that. And there's other guys that score goals. Not everybody needs to be the high flying offensive guy. I think you're seeing it in playoffs now with Florida. There's lots of guys with different roles on that team that play it really well, and that's what's bringing them success. So the biggest difference is I think one league is in a rush, the other league has a little bit more time, or they perceive it that way. But at the end of the day, there's high end skill in both. The depth is a little bit higher in terms of skill level in major junior, but at the end of the day, it's just different runway lengths, and that's it really.
Well, talking about what Brandon Shaw likes in a player, we pretty well covered that one, so I can just take that question and just go and fire it over into the garbage bin for sure. But I like what you're saying there. I think that's something that a lot of times people say, what's the best path for me? And I said, well, it really comes down to the individual person. Like, are you physically ready to play a schedule of 60 plus games plus playoffs? Are you ready to, be drafted in a couple of years' time? If so, and you have that ability, then major junior is probably the best path for you. But if you're 5'7", 115 in your first year under 18, well, maybe it's probably a good idea to think about going a route that you develop later, because you need more time to develop physically, maturity wise. There's just so many things that have to go into it. And some people just, they look at junior A as, oh, it's the second path. I totally don't agree. I just think they're just, it's more of a slow road. It's more of that long winding highway versus major junior is a little bit more of the Trans-Canada highway, so to speak. But
Yeah, 100%. Like with that, like there's a right path for each individual, and being educated. So taking in stuff like this, taking in as much as you can to figure it out. I highly recommend it, because for some guys, major junior makes a lot of sense. If you're gonna play, if you're a big guy or you're a small guy, but you're physically mature and you're ready, do it. Like it's the premier development path. Like if you can be a pro in 3 to 5 years, 100% do it. But if you're a guy who needs more time, and sometimes those are big guys too, big guys that don't have it figured out, that aren't maybe in tune with their body, that aren't maybe polished as they'd like to be. Like some of those guys go the junior A route and then go into college, and they last a long time in pro because they kind of took a slower cook than trying to rush it. Because when you rush it, you can get yourself pigeonholed into, okay, big guy, he's going to be a defensive defenseman. He's going to be a forechecker, and that's all he's good for. Whereas in junior A, sometimes if you're not ready for that, you have time to figure it out.
No, I really like that reference to the big guy too. I mean, sometimes in as a 15-year-old player, you're just maybe you go through puberty later and you grow a foot and a half in a year. And it's like your body just doesn't have time to react, and it's like you're kind of gangly in your draft year, and it's like, oh, he's kind of clumsy. But really, that person's an elite athlete. They just need a little bit more time to figure everything out. Like, okay, I've grown a foot. I've got a stick that's this much longer, So it's definitely something that's a really, really good point with big players too. We often say, well, small players will go this, big players sometimes they do definitely need more time too. Diving into Mem Cup, have you been watching any? And are the Peterborough Peach just banged up? Is this something where, like, did you see them, struggling a little bit out of the gates?
With Peterborough, like, it was tough to win our league this year. There were 5, 6 teams that loaded up, so getting through the East wasn't easy. They had to go through some really tough competition, and that takes a toll on your body. And then playing a final that was really hard fought against London, like, that takes a lot of time too. And Peterborough, they kind of struggled during the regular season at times. Like, they they lost to teams that they shouldn't have. They were in close games with teams that they shouldn't have. And we played them in a couple close games too, and people people probably laughed at it, but at the same time, like, they're a really good hockey team. They got a lot of good players. They they're a really good hockey team. They they have a top nine that not a lot of teams that can compete with. And I'm sure they're banged up in one way or another, and they'll regroup and figure it out. The best thing about that team is they've been through adversity, and if they can find a way, they'll find a way. But going to that tournament, it's definitely an honor just to get there. Like, for them to even win the OHL, it's something special, and I think sometimes that gets lost when you go to the Memorial Cup. Like, it's a really tough road to get there, to play all the games in the regular season, and then to go through 4 series of teams that are pretty special and have special players and are going to play at the next level. And we got to sometimes remember these guys are 16 to 20 years old, handling pressure. It's not the same as a 30 or a 40-year-old that's going to work. You don't have the experience to handle the pressure, but these guys, they've been through so much adversity, they'll figure it out at some point. And if not, they had a great run. They figured it out and won a league championship, which not a lot of people could say.
And you're also looking at the other teams are very, very good too with Mem Cup. You've got Seattle with a slew of top NHL draft picks. You've got Quebec City, who have a lot of first rounders too. Every one of these teams are littered with first and second round NHL players. This is the Mem Cup. It's the best teams in under 21 in Canada for sure. And last but not least, we got the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League draft coming up June 8th weekend. So if I'm a player and I am ranked to go a certain place and I slide down the draft or I don't get drafted at all, what are some words of wisdom from a guy that works in the league to give to a player that maybe they ranked in the 5th round and they slid to the 12th, or maybe they were ranked as a D and they don't get drafted at all? What would be some things that you could pass along to them?
It doesn't matter where you get drafted. It matters what you do after the draft. So if you're a guy who's rated in the 2nd round and you slide to the 7th and you don't play as a 16-year-old in the league, that's fine. If you never play in the league, that's fine. There's so many different paths to get where you want to go. The biggest thing is staying true to your character and working hard every day. There's no secret sauce. There's no secret recipe to getting there or doing one certain thing that's going to help you play in the queue. It's all about what you do after that draft, and they'll find you. Like, there's a lot of teams that'll find you, and again, you may never play a game in the queue, but there's those different paths that we talked about of junior A, going to college, all those different paths that can really help you get to that next level and be a good player. So the focus is thinking about your character and making sure you hold what's true to you rather than just focused on the result. It's all about the process. You got to trust the process. You can't just focus on the result, because if you get caught up in that result, you're gonna end up somewhere where you don't want to be, and that's no good for anyone.
I keep saying that's a really good way to look at it, but it's just someone that's been around. You've been around the block. You've coached for many years now. You've been numerous different stops along the way, so you have seen things that a lot of people your age have not seen in this game. So just listening to you talk about that, I think could really help players. And you know what? Okay, I didn't get drafted. Well, it's not the end of the world. And some parents, it's probably just as bad for parents than it is for the player itself, because the parents is like, oh, the sky's falling. I didn't get drafted, or I got drafted in the 12th round when I should have went in the 7th, and people think like their career is over. I think that's really good advice there for sure. Just keep getting better every day. Thank you very much, Brendan, for doing this with us. Guitar in the background, I'm seeing a guitar there. Are you Johnny Cash? Who are you, man? What are you playing these days?
Not me at all. It's my girlfriend. I'm not gonna lie. I got I got very little talent. I'm all hard work. So
You're no, it's not about that. It's just you're all hockey. Picking up a
yeah.
guitar, man. You don't have time to pick that guitar up, man. You are so focused on your craft and getting better. And is this where you want the bus to stop here at the OHL, or are you looking at bigger and better things someday if the opportunity presented itself?
I tell all the players, like, I'm here for the same reason you guys are. Like, everybody wants to move on to the NHL, move on to pro. Same goal for me. And the way coaches do that is you win and you help guys develop. And your players are your best asset. And if they move on to the next level and they have success, you just track that back to where they came from. And all the work comes from the players, but there's a lot of great individuals in the game that can help you get there. And that's the big thing, is like, I'm just like a player, just like anybody else. Just want to continue to move up and do right by the people in the game. Like, no one's bigger than the game. You want to do right by it and just keep working at it. And again, like I said, I'm no talent. I'm just hard work.
You're a good guy in hockey, Shazi, and I'm going to make a pact with you. I made a pact with a guy in junior hockey that if he ever got married, this was '06, that I would go to his wedding. So he wrote me in 2017, said, AP, I'm holding you to him a pact. My wedding is in Lake Placid, New York. I flew to Montreal, drove down, went to the wedding. So I'm going to make a little pact with you right now. And YouTube's, so this will be on YouTube. So like literally I've got to be held accountable to this. If you ever coach a game in the NHL, I will be at your first game.
Sounds good. I'll buy the ticket.
There we go. There it is. It is YouTube official. It is social media official. So that's awesome, buddy. I really hope that you get there, because you are a guy that has put the work in, and lots of people put the work in, but I really think a lot of you as a coach, and thank you so much for doing this for us. Process Hockey, Brandon Shaw, Niagara Ice Dogs. I will post a lot of information in the link in the description. So have a great night, buddy. It was great chatting with you again.
Yeah, you too. Appreciate it, and always enjoy staying in touch. You're doing a great job, and again, I pick your brain so much, so I appreciate you and all that you do. You do a great job with all the players out east and beyond. Like, I really can't say enough good things about you. I talk about you to all the guys in BC. I talk about you when I was in scouting meetings, and you do a great job. And I think a lot of players are benefiting from the work that you put in.
Thanks, buddy. I'll catch you later, and maybe strum a few tunes before the girlfriend comes home.
Sounds good.
See ya, man.
Bye for now.